So there's got to be a way to harness what Agentic AI can deliver in terms of automation and experience, but all backed by predictability and governance. You guys know AI agents are all the rage, and not just in B2C spaces. Us as consumers, I'm sure you guys are all interfacing with AI agents in your day-to-day life to help you, with productivity, with collaboration, with whatever it may be. But also enterprises, they are on the AI agent train. They all have innovation funds, massive budgets, which are focused on incorporating agentic AI, generative AI, and figuring out how to apply it within their core operations. So obviously, there's a lot of hype here. Everyone's making big predictions about how this is going to change how enterprises work, how businesses run, efficiency, automation, new levels of customer experience, all being promised. But what we are seeing when we engage with clients is the actual adoption is very, very low. So, you look at like Salesforce, all of the agent force marketing, right? We got Matthew McConaughey on the Super Bowl. Despite all of the hype that they've been putting out, the actual adoption of Agentforce is very low. There's no, increased revenue that they're seeing from putting that out into market. And really the reason why enterprises aren't adopting, which, I think we should have expected from the get-go, is compliance, it's confidence, it's risk, it's regulation. So, when you think of an AI agent and what it is, it's pretty cool, right? You're able to apply the creative thinking, the dynamic reasoning of generative AI to a task and automating that task. So most of the solutions in the market are structured something like this, where you have a prompt, you give that prompt a set of tools, APIs it can call, automations it can run, searches it can run on the internet, and then you say go, and you just start feeding it requests. Pretty cool. Very cool for creative thinking and dynamic tasks, but not really applicable or something you could just say go in an enterprise scenario. So what enterprises are really considering right now and up against is, how can they benefit from the automation and the experience gains which AI can deliver, but also making sure that the workflows, the experiences, the transactions that they need to be predictable every single time, that they can ensure that across the board. These AI agents, these aren't something that you can deploy and feel confident that, at scale with millions of customers, thousands of employees, millions of transactions going on, that they're following your rules every single time predictably and are governed by them across the board. You can't have an AI agent doing first notice of loss in an insurance and following a different process for every member that you have. You can't have an AI agent doing credit checks, following a different credit check process for every single loan application that comes into you as a financial services institution. You can't have an AI agent capturing grant applications differently every single time. So there's got to be a way to harness what Agentic AI can deliver in terms of automation and experience, but all backed by predictability and governance. So that's really what we've been focused here over the past couple of months on, is really bringing that to market. And now hopefully enabling you to then capture and harness some of that to create compelling solutions for enterprises that deliver on this as well. So we're gonna hop into a tool in a little bit. Drew's gonna show a demo that kind of walks through what's at the core of our enterprise solutions for clients that has done really, really well in the market. And what that is workflow. It's case management. It's the ability to drive repeatable workflows and work at scale across thousands of users, across millions of customers, and across global operations. So the ability to make sure that work is audited at scale, it's going to the right people, rules are being invoked 100% of the time consistently and predictably, and in ways that are going to be compliant to your standards. And how we are approaching the agentic AI market, which has started to resonate really, really well, is to bake AI agents into workflows themselves. So flip the paradigm where we're using AI agents less for the creative thinking and saying, come up with your own plan for every single request that comes in, but rather say, this is your plan. These are the rules that you have to follow. And then enabling the actual AI agent to drive workflows themselves. So almost act as a conversational concierge on top of a workflow-based system. So really, really exciting. And this is all based on a new tool which we're going to hop into, called Blueprint, which is also focused on accelerating the development process. So let's get into it.
And just also real quick, raise your hand if you guys have ever heard or done a blueprint through Launchpad.io. Just a few. All right. If you do one thing today or tonight when you get home, please go to Launchpad.io and do a blueprint. So Blueprint is a new tool we released about 1.5 years ago that is a design agent, an agent that takes the best practices that Pega's had for 40 years, applies it to the industry out there using an LLM, and helps companies like yourself generate the workflows and the applications they need to become successful. And doing so with letting you guys supply your input. You can do this through some of your own prompts, some of your own documentation, but really what it does is helps accelerate you guys creating applications and getting to value quicker, whether it's in Pega.com or in Launchpad. So I did this just to accelerate this. I went to Pega.com, Launchpad.io, and created a blueprint. And I said, hey, why don't you create me an expense management application? And our blueprint agent went out to the world and said, all right, what does an expense management application look like? And it came back with a list of workflows that I might want, right? I need to be able to submit expense reports. I need to be able to do some corporate credit card stuff. I might need to do some travel requests, things that you guys might know and have about it. It also goes, and it really helps kind of define what are the stages and steps that are required to complete this workflow, and who needs to get involved, and what data do I have, and where do I need to automate steps of this process. If this isn't familiar to you, this is how Pega has always defined their workflows. We've taken the very common metaphor out there, stages and steps that people can understand easily and simply, and behind the scenes, this will generate the application, the workflows that you need to make yourself successful. Same thing's true for data integrations. We all know that applications need to be able to go out to different systems of record or have like local data be a part of the system. And lastly, we know of the personas that might need to be involved. And AI will actually help you with this. At any point in time, you can actually edit this blueprint and kind of help refine it. And this really, the idea of blueprint, right, is before you go build your house, you're going to actually think about where do you want to put your kitchen? Where do you want to put your bathrooms? Where are the things? You're going to create this blueprint. And then you're going to go hand it over or take a tool like Launchpad and you're going to go build it. You're going to go make it real and make it live. And so this really helps kind of set those parameters. So let me just go back to the workflow details, because today in this quick demo, I'm going to show you how these workflows are agentic directly in the platform like Launchpad. And just to call out, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on a standard workflow like submitting an expense report, something that you've all done. And really, I'll just say let's focus on the first two stages. So I need to be able to submit an expense report. So the first step of this, I need to know, well, what's the purpose? Who's it for? What's the item or category that is involved, and when did it happen? And I can start defining some of the criteria that I need to have. I also know that I might need to attach some content, right? If I'm going to submit an expense report, I got to put the receipt in just so I can kind of prove that I've done this. So I can actually add an expense, and you'll see this. And then one of the things that Matt mentioned is, we want to make sure that AI is part of our process. So we have what we call an agent step. And this agent, which you'll see in a second, is actually going to parse this receipt, extract all the relevant data, and route it to the manager for approval. So really how agents are actually doing work for you instead of humans having to manually keystroke in all this data. So I'm just going to go jump over to a system. So I've taken that blueprint and I've imported it into Launchpad. And now I have an instantly working workflow application. I can create any of those workflows manually by hand, like we have ever done in our business. I have to go submit this detail. But rather than submitting this detail, I want to actually show you guys how you can do this agentically. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to launch my expense agent. So this agent has knowledge of that blueprint that I just created, has knowledge of the application. And so I'm going to start talking to this conversational agent and say, what can you do? What can you help me with? Have a kind of conversational interaction with it. And this expense agent is actually going to go interrogate all those workflows. It's going to know who I am. It's going to say, hey, I know it's Drew. It's going to say, I know Drew has access to perform this type of work in the system. And then it's going to say, here's how I can help you. As you can see, it responds in a matter of seconds, saying, hey, you can, apply for a corporate credit card or do an expense report, a travel request, or what have you. I can also, what's my monthly mobile expense policy?
They pay for your phone?
I hope so. I can also ask it questions that are like knowledge-based questions, data that, it isn't a workflow, but hey, what's this policy? And this is actually going to go to a tool that we have called a knowledge buddy that can take that information and come back with an answer. Hey, I know you're Drew. I know that there's a policy at Pega that says you can expense up to X amount of dollars. I also know that how you submit expenses, need to require a receipt. You need to make sure you're in compliance with the IRS. And guess what? Just in case you wanted to know, there's some additional benefits that you can have. And here's some, corporate discounts that we have as well. At the very bottom, it also says, can I help you submit an expense report? And I'll say, yes. Let's do one for the month of April. So I'm, again, talking to an agent here. And notice I didn't say, let's create an expense report, or let's create an expense report. I just said, let's create one. It knows the context of the conversation. It knows who I am, knows what my intent is. It's going to it's kind of goal-seeking, trying to get this expense report done. And it's going to have a lot of data that's already collected. And I've given it some hints along the way here, talking about my mobile app, talking about my mobile phone, talking about the month of April. And it's actually going to go fill out that first step of the form. Remember when I showed you guys, hey, if I'm going to go create an expense report, I need to collect some information like the purpose? It's done that for me. So yeah, let's actually create that expense report. So as you can see, it knows that I'm talking about a monthly cell phone. It knows who I am. I said, for the month of April, it put in a default date for April 1st. And then it gave a summarization of the expense report. All being driven behind the scenes by a workflow driven in Launchpad, kind of a prescriptive way to get it done. It didn't kind of go figure this out on the internet. It's actually using the defined rules and logic that you guys would own. So in a few seconds, hopefully it comes back and says, great, Drew, I created this piece of work for you. It's tracked. It's now routed out. And it's telling me the next step. So I could just submit an expense report, but I want you guys to see what this looks like. So behind the scenes, this is what that agent is doing. It's tracking the work. It's creating. It knows that I've gone through the collect expense details. It knows my next step is to attach a receipt. It's also grabbed a bunch of information that's relevant for proceeding with this workflow. It also has routed to me, where I need to attach my receipt. So let me go in here. I'm going to load up T-Mobile. And this is where we're going to go out to our Doc AI. All I've done is given it an image of my first page of my T-Mobile receipt. And now an agent is going to grab that image and start processing it. It's going to look for relevant information to fill out the rest of the details that are required for me to submit this expense report. Instantaneously, it's done that. Let me show you guys what this mobile receipt looked like, right? It's for the month of April. It validates that it's Drew, validates my address, has a bunch of detail, and it even calculates the total amount. So as you can see, it extracted all that information right into this case. It identified what the total expense amount is, and it's even moved this to the next stage to my manager for approval. So really showing you how agents can perform work in this system. So again, I hope you guys like what you saw today. This is just a test of what you have. Please go into Blueprint. You can actually go build the blueprint for your own applications, your own thoughts, your own ideas, and have this exact same conversational experience in Blueprint tonight.